Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're looking at a wildly fascinating piece of journalism from the year 2026 by Belinda Abercrombie for the Global Inquirer. It's an interview, but definitely not your standard Q&A. It actually frames the entire history of our world as the ultimate corporate profile. The company? Mankind Enhancement and Construction Services. And sitting at the helm of this unimaginable, universe-spanning monopoly is the celestial CEO himself, Mr. Mortimer Godd. We're going to completely unpack this brilliant corporate metaphor and look at Earth's history, our everyday struggles, and our future, all through the lens of a massive cosmic business.
So, here's our docket for today's performance review of Earth's absolute oldest enterprise. We'll meet the cosmic CEO, review the company's early history, explore how management uses friction as R&D, examine their highly specific sense of corporate humor, and finally, look at what they call the ultimate shareholder vote. Let's get into it.
Section 1. Meet the Cosmic CEO. Imagine stepping into the ultimate top-floor office. You'd find Mr. Isaac Mortimer Godd sitting right there behind a massive desk made of compressed dark matter. Now, he looks like a pretty ordinary businessman in a charcoal suit. Except, well, his eyes hold the terrifying glow of a dying star. To truly wrap our heads around the sheer scale of his monopoly, we just have to look at his payroll. When asked about his operational scope, he casually stated that Mankind Enhancement and Construction Services currently boasts 8 billion active on-site workers. Yep, that is literally every single human being on Earth today.
But hold on, because that staggering number absolutely leaps to hundreds of billions when you factor in the past employees. These are all the workers who have successfully completed their on-site duties and now reside in what the CEO likes to call the retirement village. Although, his marketing department officially rebranded it as the afterlife.
What's incredibly fascinating here is how literally every human action maps perfectly into a specific corporate department. For instance, when scientists invent a groundbreaking new vaccine, they're just operating as the enhancement division. When entire civilizations rise up and build massive empires, well, they're simply the construction team doing their day job. And what about those darker, more chaotic periods of human history? Even wars are framed by the CEO as aggressive restructuring phases meant to boost long-term efficiency. So everyone is on the payroll, and every single action serves the greater enterprise.
Moving right along to Section 2, History of Humanity Enterprises.
Every company has its PR hiccups, right? And Earth's branch is certainly no exception. Just take this massive timeline discrepancy. Scientific consensus puts the Earth at about 4.5 billion years old, but Mr. Godd's official ledger spans 6 billion. So how on earth does the CEO explain a missing 1.5 billion years? Well, he points out that science only measures the cooled crust. Mankind Enhancement and Construction Services, on the other hand, was busy clearing the lot, stabilizing the molten core, and pouring the foundations way before the first rock ever cooled. As he puts it, they don't just build the house, they mix the concrete.
And speaking of our early history, the journalist actually probed the CEO about the company's humble beginnings in a certain garden with an apple tree, maybe suggesting management's style felt a bit, strict back then. Godd'll just laughed this off as a classic startup growing pain. He described the garden as an early corporate incubator, and Adam and Eve, they were just wonderful entry-level employees with zero experience. He noted that if he hadn't pushed the workforce out of the nest, human history would honestly just be a 6 billion-year loop of napping and picking berries. You simply have to force innovation.
Which brings us to Section 3, Friction as Research and Development.
Now, you might be wondering, if the ultimate goal of the company is enhancement, why would management intentionally introduce design flaws, things like disease or dental plaque? The answer is pure quality assurance. Godd explains that a perfectly flawless world with zero friction just leads to immediate corporate stagnation. Think about it. If human teeth never decayed, we never would have bothered to invent dentistry. And without dentistry, we wouldn't have pushed forward into anesthesia, which ultimately paved the way for modern surgery. Pain and everyday problems aren't punishments at all. They are actually a mandatory system upgrade.
It's a pretty wild perspective. The CEO even views pests, like cockroaches, as quality assurance agents just testing the structural integrity of our ecosystems. Furthermore, he argues that cold, dark nights exist specifically to give compassion its market value. You literally cannot appreciate the sunrise without experiencing the dark first. Management's job isn't to just hand humanity a finished product. Instead, they provide the raw materials and a truly top-tier health benefits package. And what is that package? At its core, it's human resilience.
All right, Section 4. Management's sense of humor.
As you can imagine, managing 700,000 galaxies requires an absolutely immense coping mechanism. But Mr. Godd completely insists he isn't the stern, humorless director that most people imagine. In fact, as undeniable proof that management really enjoys a good laugh, he takes full, direct credit for the invention of the platypus, not to mention the timeless physical comedy concept of slipping on a banana peel. He calls it a deliberate injection of absurdity right into the corporate structure. He actually goes even further with this, explaining that he actively deploys comedians to Earth. He specifically highlighted Rodney Dangerfield and apparently even keeps a framed photo of him right in his office. Dangerfield famously built a legendary career on getting no respect, which Godd views as peak corporate irony. He says these comedians act as our unofficial ombudsman, constantly reminding the workforce not to take climbing the corporate ladder too seriously, because at the end of the day, laughing at the sheer absurdity of the job is exactly how you survive the shift.
Now for our final section, Section 5, the ultimate shareholder vote. When we look around at the news, the climate, and global politics in the year 2026, it's pretty easy to see why a lot of employees feel like the whole company is going under. But when the workforce despairs and starts losing faith in management, the CEO just tells them to look back at their own history. Humanity has survived ice ages, terrible plagues, and total bankruptcies of morality. And every single time, somebody invents a new tool or shares their bread to save the day. Showing the journalist an old copper coin, Godd explains that while whole galaxies burn out and commodities constantly rise and fall, there's exactly one asset on Earth that never ever depreciates: hope. It is literally hardwired right into the human hardware.
Now you might be thinking that having a hand in everything from the morning sunrise to the cockroach means Humanity Enterprises is just a strict, top-down monopoly. But Godd explicitly rejects that idea. The entire Earth project actually operates on a massive decentralization model. Sure, management lays the concrete and provides the basic infrastructure, but the actual power is distributed. Mankind is the one holding the voting shares.
So what does this all mean for us? The absolutely crucial takeaway is that Earth is approaching a massive milestone regarding how we treat our neighbors and how we solve our planetary climate. And the real kicker here is that everyone gets a say. Even the skeptics, the doubters, and the independent contractors of life. Everybody gets a vote. Every single human choice you make during your shift is a literal ballot cast toward the ultimate future of the planet.
The CEO is betting the entire franchise on the workforce. He truly believes that beneath our incredibly messy democratic process lies a deep, foundational wisdom. A wisdom that when it truly matters, humanity will choose to build rather than destroy, that will choose love and will choose survival. The board of directors might be watching, but the pen is firmly in mankind's hand. So as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with this one final critical thought. If every choice is a ballot cast, how are you going to vote?